Hi, I'm Sharon Weisenbaum from the White Pine Institute and the White Pine Circle, and I appreciate the American Acupuncture Council for having me here today. The topic of the lecture today is how to use Ma Huang safely. So I hope this is interesting to you all. So go to our first slide. Okay, so we're going to be looking at using Ma Huang safely in relation to some formulas and what Ma Huang does in these formulas and how it's used differently, so we can get an idea of which formulas are really strong and bring out certain characteristics of Ma Huang and which are actually quite gentle, even though they have Ma Huang in them. So we're going to be looking at first, this idea of cold damage, Taiyang Shanghan. So that's on the surface of the body, this damage from cold, which is sort of the quintessential pattern for which we give Mahuang. And I'm going to be telling you more about how I see the use of Mahuang. It's a little bit different than, or Mahuang Tong, a little bit different than the standard way of thinking about Mahuang Tong. So here are the symptoms that go along with the Ma Huang Tong pattern, this cold damage: headache, fever, body and back pain, joint pain, aversion to cold, lack of sweating, panting, fullness of the chest, and the pulse is tight and floating. So these are the symptoms that are listed in the Shanghan Lun for this pattern. And I'd like to just go over some of these with the idea that the Ma Huang Tong pattern is a pattern in which the surface of the body is frozen shut. So just imagine that the surface of your body is frozen and therefore it's shut. So you can imagine if the surface of your body is frozen and shut that you would be very cold. And with the Ma Huang Tong pattern, this aversion to cold is really an extreme aversion. Like you cannot get warm no matter how many covers you put on. So you're really cold, but at the same time, there's this lack of sweating because the surface of the body is frozen closed. Now, this panting that's here is related to the fact that the surface of the body is completely closed down. The pores are not opening at all because they're frozen shut. And it's actually true that if, for example, you got a bad burn over more than 60% of your body, you die of suffocation. So we actually breathe through the surface of our body quite a lot. And so when the surface of your body is frozen closed, it's difficult to breathe. So there's this panting. And the same is true of the fullness of the chest. It's your lungs are not able to open and circulate. Now we'll go back to the beginning. This headache and body and back pain. This is a Taiyang pattern, and the Taiyang channels go up the back and onto the head, and those are the channels that are frozen closed. So you feel really a lot of pain with a Ma Huang Tong pattern. You just feel so achy. It's not a minor symptom the way it would be with like a Guizhi Tong pattern. Here you just feel so achy. And the reason you have a fever is because all the time the yang in our body is going up and out. So we're always sweating a little bit, but we're letting off body heat at the same time. And when the surface is frozen shut, that yang comes to the surface of the body and accumulates. So you can get fever. It's pathological heat, so it can't keep us warm. In fact, we're very, very cold. So we can understand these signs and symptoms. And then the pulse is floating because the pathology and the life force is stuck up at the surface of the body, and it's tight because it's frozen closed. Floating can be in the Tsun position, mean that it's, mostly in the Tsun position. It can also mean in another position it's towards the surface. So usually with this pattern, the Sun position is floating and tight. So if you have that image of the surface of the body being frozen closed, so imagine this is the frozen circle around your body, and so you feel all these symptoms. Then you bring in Ma Huang Tong. And so with Ma Huang Tong, what we're doing is bringing pungent warmth from inside the body. You know, we drink the herbs, now we have pungent warmth inside our body, and it goes up and out. Pungent in our bodies goes up and out. So we bring this pungent warmth into our body, and it goes up and out, and it melts the surface of the body, and therefore we sweat. So then the sweat comes out. And so, I sometimes ask my patients, do you have a feeling like if only I could sweat, I would feel better? And usually a Ma Huang Tong pattern is actually really good news because it's so easy to treat. The person is so painfully uncomfortable, and yet the herbs just work so fast. And it's the person, usually within 10, 20 minutes, they have a nice sweat and they feel such a sense of relief. So anyway, so we have an idea about this cold damage that matches Ma Huang Tong. So now let's look at just Ma Huang itself. And when we look at Ma Huang, we want to look at what it does in the body, but we also want to look at what's the proportion of Ma Huang in the formula. Some formulas are long and have just a small amount of Ma Huang. Other formulas are short and have a big proportion of Ma Huang. What is the Ma Huang combined with? That makes a really big difference in terms of the action of the Ma Huang. And what are the proportions of Ma Huang to the other types of herbs? And this will tell you the way and the extent to which you're using Ma Huang's characteristics. There's my rooster out the window. Okay, so Ma Huang. Ma Huang is pungently and warmly stimulating upward on the surface of the body. That kind of whoosh, up and out in a very warm way. Ma Huang is also bitter, and it's bitterly descending and opening from the surface lung to the bladder. So we also have Ma Huang patterns where the surface gets frozen, and it's like putting your finger at the top of the straw, and the water accumulates. It can't go down through the bladder. Ma Huang is also hollow, and so it has this quality of opening through a tube. So by opening the pores, you can then pee. I remember just a little story, anecdotal story that might help remember this. That is that I had a patient who had urinary incontinence as a general rule, and she got a cold, and it was a Ma Huang Tong pattern, and her incontinence completely went away while she was sick. And she noticed that, like, God, I'm coughing and sneezing and I'm not peeing at all. And it's because those pores are closed and it holds that water in. Okay, so when we're using Ma Huang, all the symptoms come from the pattern and they can vary a lot. So Ma Huang is very stimulating to the heart. So it treats the opposite of that, where you feel fatigue and dullness. With the Ma Huang Tong pattern, you want to like go to bed and just curl up and sleep. You're so fatigued and dull. Ma Huang is warming to the surface, so it's really good for cold and pain. It's opening to the surface, so it treats the panting and the lack of sweat. It's hollow and bitter, so it opens the surface to the bladder to allow water to descend. It also leads other herbs to the surface of the body. Okay, so here's Ma Huang Tong. So we look at this proportion of Ma Huang in the formula, and we have 3 liang or 9 grams, and then we have 6 liang of guizhi, 6 grams of guizhi and 10 grams of xingren, and then just a little bit of zhigansha, just 3 grams. So there's the formula. So we see there's a a large proportion, a third of the formula is Ma Huang. The other thing about Ma Huang Tong is that it's combined with Guizhi. So when you see Ma Huang combined with Guizhi, you know this is going to be opening the surface and creating, probably creating a sweat. If it's just a little bit of both, maybe not so much. But Guizhi is like the potentiating herb from Ma Huang. So when you have Ma Huang in a formula, as we'll see, without Guizhi, it's not nearly so dispersive to the surface of the body. So think of Guizhi as sort of potentiating Ma Huang, making it stronger. So the apricot seed in the Shennong Bancao Jing, it says it's sweet and warm, beneficially cold, and with slight toxin. To me, the way that the Xingren works in the Ma Huang Tong is that while Ma Huang is making the lungs and the surface of the body go up and out, this sweet, and we're losing liquid, right? It promotes this sweat. The sweetness brings in moisture for the lungs, and it also helps the lungs go down. So we're opening up the pores so that there's breathing, and then also descending the lungs. So it rules cough with reversal rising of the qi, which is what's happening. The qi is rising and getting stuck up above. So those are the primary things we want to notice there. And then Chen Shouyuan says the seeds are more bitter than sweet. So the Shennong Bancao Jing has it as sweet, but also bitter, which is really why it is known to have this moving down qi for the rising up of the qi. So Xingren is in there really to help the lungs descend once they're open. So if we're looking at the lungs here at the top of the body, we have the rising on the left and the descending on the right. Xingren works here on the right, helping the lungs descend. And if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know about this circle. So Ma Huang Tong is the quintessential Ma Huang formula. It's potentiated by Guizhi, and it has little else to really control it. So it has this frozen exterior. Ma Huang goes up and out, and it's also bitter, so it helps descend with the Xingren, and then it dissolves the frozen surface. Okay, so now we're going to look at another formula. And so maybe now you'll notice in this formula, though there's a lot of Ma Huang, proportionally, given the amount of Shi Gao, it's actually quite a bit less than in Ma Huang Tong. In addition, not only is it not potentiated by Guizhi, it's also got the Shi Gao to balance it out. So if you think about what Shi Gao does, if Ma Huang excites the heart and stimulates, Shi Gao calms agitation. If Ma Huang goes up and out in order to help produce a sweat, Shi Gao opens up the Yang Ming to relieve and stop sweating. We know in Bai Hu Tong, big sweat is one of the symptoms of Shi Gao. So we can see that Shi Gao really counteracts some of the negative effects of Ma Xing Shi Gan Tong. It's also sometimes called Ma Xing Gan Shi Tong or Ma Huang Xingren Gancao Shi Gao Tong. And so this is an amazing formula. I just love this formula. And so I want you to see how this formula is safe. With Ma Huang Tong, not only are we worried about someone getting insomnia and having palpitations because it's so exciting, but also we're worried about their pores opening too much. And them losing a lot of yang through their pores and a lot of yin through the sweat. So there are a lot of cautions and contraindications for Ma Huang Tong. However, Ma Xing Shigong Tong is quite different. And in my experience, it doesn't induce a sweat at all. And this formula is one reason I really love it. When you have some over and over again great results with it and you feel like you know just when to give it, and you sort of feel like you have a superpower. And so I feel that way with Ma Xing Shigong Tong. So in this formula, it's really for when the surface was frozen and it really has just dropped into your lungs, not in a way that you're getting better. Like sometimes when you have a cold, as you're getting better, you get a cough, but you feel actually not as bad as you did in the beginning. This is that feeling of like, oh no, my condition's going south. I'm getting worse. It's dropped into my chest. Really, like, this is going to turn into bronchitis or pneumonia. Just drop that feeling of dropping in. And, you'll have patients where when they get a cold, it always does that. At the beginning, it's just a cold, and then they're, oh no, it dropped into my chest. I'm going to be in this for a while. I'm getting worse. And this formula, Ma Xing Shigong Tong, it's, just some opening the exterior, but really opening the downward movement of the lungs and preventing them from getting hot. For me, the Shigao is not necessarily such a cooling herb. It does have a cooling effect, but that's because it is pungent and it opens up the downward movement of the yang ming. So if you were in a room and all the windows were closed and getting hotter and hotter, and then you're just schwitzing all over the place because it's getting hotter and hotter, it's like opening the windows, like, ah. And Shigao has the quality of going down, not from being bitter, but from the slivers actually being vertical slivers of the stone. It's also sweet, so the it helps to moisten the lungs back up when they've gotten hot. So it's just a beautiful formula when you take it and it's the right formula. Again, the result is almost instant. Like whenever you have an acute issue and you get the formula right, the results are usually really fast compared to working with a chronic issue. But so you can see that the fear, like I've taken Ma Xing Shigong Tong before, and with Ma Huang Tong, oh my God, the littlest bit, and I would get palpitations because I'm so not a Ma Huang Tong type of person. I don't get Ma Huang Tong types of issues, but with Ma Xing Shigong Tong, never a problem. So, I think a lot of people are really afraid to use Ma Huang at all. Like, oh, I can't give somebody a Ma Huang formula. But what I'd like you to see is like all Ma Huang formulas are not the same. So here we have Ma Xing Shigong Tong. The right sun is floating and slippery because of that heat at the Yang Ming. And the sweating means that the lungs are blocked. And so here we have the Ma Huang, and there's this block in the Yang Ming preventing the lungs from going down, and it's getting hot. And you give the white tiger, which is Shigao, and it clears that right up. Okay, the next formula I want to look at, and I put the clauses here for you, but I'm not going to read them. And if you can look at this and see, okay, how strong is this in terms of opening up the surface of the body and, inducing a sweat. And you can probably see, wow, this is really strong. So it has Ma Huang at 6 liang or 18 grams and Guizhi to potentiate it. So Da Qing Lung Tong is a formula that's going to strongly open up the exterior of the body. It's going to create a sweat. You have to be careful with this formula. Now it also has Shigao, but it's got relatively less of Shurgao and a lot more of Ma Huang. So this is a formula to be careful with. Now we also have in this formula the Three Musketeers, Gansao, Shengjiang, Dazao. And um, we have Gansao and Mahongtang, but here we also have Shengjiang and Dazao. And that's super important for this formula because not only are you inducing a sweat and getting rid of yang that way, you're also giving Shurgao that's very cooling. And you have to replace those that fluid and warmth from the stomach. So Shengjiang with Dazao, it sort of starts this cooking process in the stomach of bringing in more fluids, especially with Gansao. So we can see in this formula, I would love for people to be able to now look at formulas and see how strong is this formula going to be. So this is a really strong open the exterior, melt the exterior formula. And it's like Mahongtong, except not only is the surface still blocked, but there's starting to be a lot of heat developing. Now, in the Mashing Shigantang, the surface is just barely blocked. And so it's much more that the heat is developing. So here we have a comparison of the Daqing Longtang versus the Mashing Shigantang. So Mashing Shigantang has no Guizhi or Shengjiang, so it's not for water. The Shengjiang is in there for water, and it's not so diaphoretic. And the Xingran is high in Mashing Shigantang, which means it's more for the lungs. So it's much more of a Yang Ming formula, Mashing Shigantang, and less for Taiyang compared to Daqing Longtang. So here in Daqing Longtang, lots of Guizhi with lots of Mahuang. Also, Shengjiang is going to be pungent and warm, so diaphoretic. The Shengjiang means there's water, so there can be water swelling, especially like in the joints with Daqing Longtang. Much more Taiyang, less Yangming. So Daqing Longtang, we have it's very cold with some heat starting to develop. And we give the blue-green dragon, which is Mahuang and Guizhi, and we give the white tiger, and we melt the cold and also clear the heat while replenishing the fluids from the middle, the fluids and the warmth from the middle. The pulse is same as Shaoqing Longtang, but it's slippery in the right guan because of the heat. Could go all the way up to the right Cun. So, Daqing Longtang indications, it disperses that cold that's on the surface of the body and also water on the exterior, like swelling in the joints. There's no sweating with this pattern. Where Mashing Shigantang, you might have sweating, you might not have sweating, but it's not a big part of the pattern. You will have pain with the Daqing Longtang pattern. You will have heat. And also vexation. You'll feel agitated. So we look at the doses of Mahuang and Guizhi, comparing Daqing Longtang with Mahongtang. Mahongtang is sort of pure Taiyang. Daqing Longtang is mostly Taiyang going into Yangming. So at our final formula, hopefully well trained by now, you look and say, wow, there's a lot of Mahuang. There's also a lot of Shurgao. And so then we also see there's quite a bit of Shengjiang. So this formula has no Guizhi, so it's not really inducing a sweat. It's more just opening the pores and warming the surface of the body and cooling heat. And the Shangjiang tells us that it's for water. And this is called wind water. And with this formula, you get swelling and pain in the body and sometimes swollen joints that get very hot as well. Same in the Daqing Longtong pattern. But here the surface is not so cold. There's a formula family of the maid servant of Yue formulas where you can add baiju if there's more dampness and a thicker coating on the tongue. You can add bansha if there's vomiting. And then there's a formula that's at very small doses called Guizhi R, UABE, which is 2 times Guizhi Tong with 1 part 2 parts Guizhi Tong and 1 part Yuebi Tong. But the main point I wanted to make here for this lecture about using Ma Huang safely is that the maidservants of Yue are known for their consideration and gentleness. And we can know that Ma Huang with Shigao without Guizhi is very gentle. So you don't have to be worried here about agitating somebody or creating too much of a sweat when you have this Shigao without the Guizhi, just like in Ma Xing Shigan Tong. So this is basically saying what I just said. Okay, so with the Yuebi Tong, the surface is lightly closed and it's made there be water swelling. And actually, it's the combination of the Gansao and the Ma Huang also treats the water swelling. And then it also starts to get hot because it's not moving. Once that blocked surface starts to get hot, then we say, oh, it's moving into Yangming. And so you get not only water swelling, but it starts to get red, and the water swelling is painful. And we're also, you can see we're replenishing the fluids and the yang from the inside. So we add the blue-green dragon, Ma Huang, Shengjiang, and the white tiger. And it opens things up and clears the heat, so the water swelling goes away and the heat is cleared and the person is comfortable. Again, an amazing formula when it's given at the right moment. Okay, so thank you. Just to end with a few little farm pictures. We had 3 pregnant goats, and every one of them had triplets. This is a couple of them. And so now we have 9 baby goats. So that's Elm and Jasmine with their babies, and that's my daughter, the farmer, with our puppy that was born New Year's Eve here. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody.